Workers have begun a 2-day stoppage, while a strike by rail workers is causing severe disruption for a second day. More strikes are planned, including by nurses. Unions say they need higher pay to keep up with soaring inflation. But the government argues that would make the problem worse, as Nick Eardley reports.
Getting inflation down is the key economic test for Rishi Sunak's government. Number 10 knows it'll be judged on whether it delivers. Ministers argue that significant increases in wages could make that task harder and mean that higher prices persist. Unions, though, believe that significant increases in prices now mean that their members need much better pay offers to keep up with the cost of living. That's the crux of industrial unrest at the moment.
The polls have closed in Fiji in a general election that's being seen as a test of China's bid for influence in the South Pacific. Long queues were reported at some polling stations. Fiji has grown closer to China under the Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama, who seized power in 2006. His main rival, Sitiveni Rabuka, led 2 coups in 1987. He's indicated Fiji could move away from China should he win. Morocco will become the first African and Arab football team to play in a World Cup semi-final today. They'll take on the reigning champions France in Qatar. Morocco's victory over Portugal in the previous round shocked the footballing world. BBC News.
Welcome to Glasgow for the third of the BBC Wreath Lectures in a series inspired by Franklin D. Roosevelt's For Freedom speech of 1941. So far, we've heard from the author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
For now, thanks very much indeed. Just want to take viewers through some of the detail of what is happening right now in terms of the coordination. Here's a statement from, I think it is the Maritime Agency. The Maritime and Coast Guard Agency. HM Coast Guard, His Majesty's Coast Guard, is currently coordinating a search and rescue response to an incident involving a small boat off Kent, working with the Navy, Border Force, Kent Police and other partners. Fishing vessel in the area is also assisting in the rescue. South East Coast Ambulance, Kent Police are working with us, and an air ambulance has been sent. The incident is ongoing and we have no further information. That statement, in fact, released a significant time ago now. As we understand it from our sources, this is not a search and rescue operation any longer. We have, however, been hearing from the Home Secretary, of course, Suella Braverman. This is what she is saying, perhaps aware of those reports of fatalities. I am aware of a distressing incident in the Channel this morning, and I'm being kept constantly updated while agencies respond and urgently establish the full facts. My heartfelt thoughts are with all those involved. Her opposite number, the Shadow Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said this. Awful, distressing reports from the Channel this morning, thinking of all those involved. Thank you to the agency and rescue service teams who are responding to this immensely difficult situation. Let's speak now to Amnesty International's Refugee and Migrant Rights Programme Director, Steve Valdez. Steve, good to see you this morning. And look, I will confess that I'm getting pretty sick of having to report on this particular story. This has happened a number of times. It is not me taking a political position to say that people should not be dying in numbers in the Channel. In your mind, what is responsible for the incredible numbers that have been making this journey this year, and those losing their lives as well?
Well, we all have to remember that the number of people who come to our country, the UK, seeking asylum remains relatively few compared to elsewhere. Those who do often have family and connections here, or have been unable to get safely into an asylum system elsewhere. And if you look at the situation of people in northern France, it is not hard to understand why people who are facing a thoroughly miserable, dreadful winter, homeless, often having their tents ripped apart and removed by the French police, bullied, menaced, want to make a journey in the hope that this will finally bring them to safety. Mm-hmm. Unless the governments of France and the UK will take responsibility to ensure everybody can get safely into a system to determine who is entitled to stay and who is not, including on this side of the channel with this country taking responsibility, I'm afraid smugglers will continue to govern all of this, and we will continue seeing these dreadful tragedies and people losing their lives.
I'm afraid I think you have a point there. I suspect, though, that the issue for many people is they cannot get to the United Kingdom by any other means than crossing the Channel. It is fine if you're Ukrainian, can get out of the country, if you're from Hong Kong, but even Afghans who would qualify for asylum in this country are finding it difficult to get here. So how do we stop people getting as far as they do, getting themselves to the beaches and into the contact of those people smugglers, and how then do we process genuine, legitimate asylum claims? Is there another way to do this, Steve?
There's completely another way to do this. I mean, the starting point is the last thing that you mentioned. People who make claims should have their claims dealt with. And this country, the UK, has not been doing that for the last few years. It's why a backlog has ballooned from around 10,000, 15,000 people to around 100,000 people in just the space of a few years. So we have to make our asylum system work, and that's by deciding the claims of people. In terms of addressing these dangerous journeys, look, the UK needs to work with others. That's certainly true. But it needs to work with others on getting people safely into asylum systems, not working with others simply to try and stop people moving and leave them in misery. I'm afraid it's not just the UK that behaves like that, but we certainly do as a country and have done for a long time. And we are encouraging nothing that enables people to stop making dangerous journeys, and everything to require them to make more journeys, rely more on smugglers. Because if none of us will share responsibility with each other, ultimately, the only people who offer any sort of hope, miserable and exploitative though it is, are those smugglers.
Steve, I'm afraid we have to leave it there, but I suspect we will be talking again very soon. Steve Valdez-Simmons from Amnesty International's Refugee and Migrants' Rights Programme. Thank you very much indeed. Just a bit of detail, in fact, a statement, I'm reading from Enver Solomon, the Chief Executive of the Refugee Council, that I think is worth bringing in at this point. He says this: we are devastated to hear news of the incident in the Channel today and heartbroken at the reports of fatalities. Our thoughts are with all those affected, and we pay tribute to the rescue teams working on such a dreadful incident. Sadly, this is not the first time we are waking up to such devastating news of people having lost their lives on a harrowing journey to Britain in search of safety. And Enver makes this point, Enver from the Refugee Council: it is just over a year since 32 lives were lost in a similar incident. Like those involved in today's incident, they had hopes and dreams for the future. They weren't illegal. They were desperately seeking safety. The Refugee Council saying they will be monitoring the situation carefully, and in the meantime, thank all those who've expressed their sympathy and solidarity with those affected by this horrendous incident. Let's once again bring in our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen. And Tamara, you're getting some update as to the detail of what has happened in the Channel.
Yes, government sources saying that a number of people have been rescued alive. So that is very good news.
Very good news.
That all the Coast Guard and all the emergency services deployed there in the early hours this morning were able to get some people out alive. One source is saying it's as many as 43 rescued alive, but we do not know how many people were initially on the boat, so that is yet to be clarified, but sounds like at least some of those on the boat have been rescued and taken to safety. But sadly, we are also hearing from a number of sources, including MPs in the area, that others are feared dead. But it sounds like not everyone on the boat is in the Channel. Some of them have been taken to safety, so that is good news.
There are a number of Conservative MPs who work in this area that we have been hearing from this morning. We've also heard, of course, from Natalie Elphicke, the Dover MP, Damien Green, actually sitting on the sofa just a little bit earlier on today. Do you detect, I mean, look, let's just reiterate that point just now, that at least one source suggesting to us that there have been a significant number of rescues. Great news if that proves to be true. But do you detect anything in this, given, as the Refugee Council pointed out, we were here a year ago, almost to the day. Do you detect anything in this incident that will prompt immediate reflection from the government, given we did have a fairly significant announcement on immigration from the Prime Minister yesterday?
We did, and it was almost to preempt a tragedy like this happening. I mean, ever since Boris Johnson was elected and the numbers of people crossing the Channel in particular rose so much from something under 300 in 2018, 8,500 in 2020, and then 40,000 this year. I mean, we're talking about a real spike in people taking this particular route. The government have been saying we're going to crack down on it under 2 different Home Secretaries. They've tried all sorts of tactics. All of last year they were talking about pushing boats back and all these controversial tactics which in the end could not be used. They found it very difficult to stop people using these routes, and Rishi Sunak is, as a result of his announcement yesterday, able to say that not only has the Home Secretary managed to agree a deal with the French last month when she went over there, offered more money from our side, having British personnel in French control rooms to see how it all works, how they're disrupting the boats before they leave. But yesterday he talked about giving the National Crime Agency more money to tackle the gangs and legislation next year to make it more difficult for people who make it here to get their asylum claims approved. So all this is talking about acting as a deterrent, but it's all going to take many months. And when you get an absolute tragedy like this, the idea that people would risk their lives in sub-zero temperatures to cross the Channel, it really does make politicians reflect on the conditions that would make people do that. And I think many charities will be today pressing the case, as they often do, that there are not enough safe routes. There are safe routes for people who come from Ukraine on the particular scheme from Afghanistan and from Hong Kong, but for many people in unstable parts of the world, whether that's people coming from Syria, people who've not been able to make their claim in the country that they want to come from Iran, from other places where they say they are suffering from persecution, it is very difficult to get here by any other route. But I think the government will fall back on what they announced yesterday, saying that the Prime Minister has made this his personal priority. But his Home Secretary said a few weeks ago, none of this is the silver bullet, none of this is going to stop it happening. We can just try and do things around the edges, particularly in getting through the enormous backlog of people who've made claims.
Adam Parsons is our Europe correspondent. He joins us on the line, and he is on his way to Calais as we speak. But you have been there, Adam, a number of times in recent months. There is absolutely nothing that is surprising about this incident, is there?
Nothing at all. I mean, frankly, everybody has been expecting something like this to happen. I have to say, honestly, I often think I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, because so many of these boats leave from the beaches and you see them and they are clearly not seaworthy. They're very often fitted with engines that malfunction. I've seen boats leaving beaches and the engines are sort of spluttering and dying still within sight of them. And they are often overloaded. This boat appears to have had between 40 and 50 people on board it. I can guarantee you that if you had a choice, you would not be getting on a boat of that type with 49 other people. So no, there's nothing surprising about this at all. That the similar incident that happened last year, where 31 people died, was probably a culmination of a whole series of fears, as is this one nearly exactly a year later. And frankly, it's hard to think of a more atrocious situation to find yourself in. Charities that we've been in contact with this morning have told us that, one of them said that they were in contact with somebody on the boat, and they had the last conversation they had with them was at 2:53 in the morning. At that point, the Channel is inky black. It would have been very cold. The water, as you've been hearing, would have been freezing. And remember, this is the busiest shipping lane in the world. So it's a terrifying journey to make. It is, to my mind, remarkable how many of these small boats actually get across the Channel without going to this sort of peril. But it's a measure of the desperation and the desire that people have. It's a point that seems obvious, but is worth making. Everybody that you see in a migrant camp in Calais and Dunkirk and in those areas is only there for one reason. It's not because they like the northwest French coast. It's because they want to get to Britain, and they are going to try to do so on board a boat. It's not a question at that point of do they fancy it or do they not. They're going to try to get on a boat and they're going to try and get across the channel. It used to be that at this time of the year, this sort of cross-channel migration on small boats sort of faded away. And when I say used to be, we're only talking about a relatively short space of time. But this year, and in fact last year, we've seen a change, and it's almost becoming a year-round exercise. And of course, it's incredibly perilous to be doing that journey in this weather. But also the conditions, if you exclude the freezing temperature, yesterday it seems as if conditions were good for taking a boat across. The people smugglers, they don't really think about the temperature. They're looking at the wind, and the wind is the factor here. And the wind, if it's calm, seems to have been in their favour. I have to tell you that I mean, if this number is confirmed, that 43 people have been rescued, that would seem to be a really very, very high number. The fears among many people were of multiple fatalities. French hospitals have been warned that they would expect the potential for a significant number of fatalities. If this figure are correct, is a 43 rescue, that will be, despite the fact that clearly people may well have died in this, that will be a really sort of pleasingly high number of people to have been taken from an incident of this kind.
Yeah, it will. It certainly will, Adam. But I believe the last time we were talking was when you were on the beaches of Calais, was when there was that announcement of a closer UK-France partnership, of greater information sharing, of British officers being in the control room on the French side. Has that joint cooperation not delivered any benefits just yet? Or can we detect any improvement as a result of that? Or has it just not had enough time to bed in?
I think, it's in its infancy. But B, you do come back to some fundamental questions here, which are that these people are trying to get across, that they are empowered to an extent by people smugglers. And let's remember, the people smugglers are earning a lot of money from this. The people at the top of these criminal enterprises are millionaires, and they are making fortunes from this. And it's a cat and mouse game. So it is not so long ago that a matter of weeks, that we filmed migrants running down the beach into the water and jumping into boats that were just off the shore. Why were they doing that? It's because the French police standing orders say they can't enter the sea to intercept people. They can't arrest people smugglers who are out at sea. And so this almost sort of taxi service, it used to be we saw migrants running down the beach, carrying boats and collectively throwing them in the water and getting in. Now they've discovered, people smugglers have discovered, it's a lot easier if they bring a boat around and get people to run into the water for them. And it's a good example of how they are adept at circumnavigating the rules that are put in front of them. However criminal, however evil we may portray these people as being, they are often smart at understanding what needs to be done. And as the police move the goalposts in one direction, the smugglers react. So yes, there will be more police. But remember also, the number of people attempting to cross the channel has gone up. So if you increase the number of police who are trying to stop them, you are effectively, in terms of a desperate migrant per police officer, the ratio probably hasn't changed that much.
Adam Parsons, thanks very much indeed. Well, our sources are telling us that 43 people have been rescued alive. There have been at least 3 people losing their lives following this incident, this major incident taking place in the Channel. Let's speak now to Kevin Saunders, former Chief Immigration Officer for the UK Border Force in Calais. Good to see you this morning. Wish it was under different circumstances, of course. What do you make of the detail of the rescue effort that is going on at the moment, the scale of it, the multi-agency approach that is being taken? I mean, dear goodness, there's a fishing boat, there's French Navy, there's UK Navy. It's all coming together. And it would appear, going by the number of people rescued, that it has borne fruit.
Yes, it would. And if they have rescued 43 people, that's a fantastic result. And it shows how well the UK and France can work together when there's a tragedy like this. So, yeah, it's a great result. It's still tragic that 3 people have died so far. But it's fantastic that 43 have been saved, particularly as the weather's so awful.
Just describe to us what the conditions at this time of year would generally be like. We know we're in the middle of an Arctic storm at the moment, but even without that, I mean, crossing the Channel was perilous. Well, it's perilous at any time of the year, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, crossing the Channel in a small boat like this is absolute sheer madness at any time of the year. But in the winter, with the sea temperature being what it is, and we saw the tragic death at the weekend of those small children.
Kevin, can I just get you to pause just for a second? Because I think if you can see your screen right now, if you can see what I'm seeing, we are looking at the rescue itself. I'm just going to try and move myself just slightly closer to the television so I can actually make it out a bit more. I mean, that is clearly an inflatable craft. It is an inflatable craft that I think, if I'm looking at it correctly here, that is folded up on itself. That looks to me like an awful lot of people balancing on the edge and stuck, wedged almost in the middle of that boat. I mean, have you seen anything like this?
Never. I've never seen anything like that at all. It would seem that perhaps the boat didn't capsize, but actually got a puncture in it, because these things are filled with air. So it looks from that picture as though some of the air cylinders have punctured, and the boat started to fold in on itself. It must be incredibly frightening for the people on board, because they don't all seem to be wearing life jackets either.
But again, just taking, and this is very much the first look that I've had at this picture, same as yourself. You look at the individual that is sitting atop the edge of the boat, and almost in the centre of the frame, at the very, very top there, wearing a short-sleeved shirt, presumably in the wee hours of the morning whilst crossing the Channel. I mean, you'll have seen that, I suspect, more than once.
Yes, I mean, that's just sheer and utter madness. Short-sleeved shirt in this weather, coming across the Channel, is going to be soaking wet. It's just absolute and utter madness. It really is.
What is your view then as to where we should be targeting our resources to prevent this? Now, as we said, we understand that 43 people have been rescued alive, which is fantastic. But 3 people have died. We're now looking at in fact, it's the lifeboat from the Dungeness station. I can just make out there, and that's them recovering the boat proper. I think maybe one person perhaps still inside it. Where do we need to be focusing our resources? Do we need to be stopping people getting to the beaches of Calais? Do we need to be targeting the people smugglers themselves? Where is the solution to this?
It's both. We've got to target the people smugglers, and the extra money for the NCA that the Prime Minister announced yesterday will be very helpful. But we've also got to stop people getting onto the Channel and risking life and limb. Because not only are they risking not only are they risking their lives, the rescuers are risking their lives as well.
And we are going to see this again, aren't we? Unless some pretty significant action is taken immediately, Kevin. Is that fair to say?
That's fair. I mean, last year, I was in Dover last year when the disaster happened last year, and I said then, this will happen again. And unfortunately, it has. We have to stop the people coming from the beaches. We just have to do it. And if we have to throw more money at it, so be it. But we can't have people risking their lives like this. It's just immoral, basically.
It certainly is, and one incident that we have been reminded of this morning by the Refugee Council, no less, is the one that took place, roughly the same time last year, in which more than 30 people lost their lives, and that wasn't enough for there to be changes to ensure that it didn't happen again.
No, it didn't, and it's very sad that it didn't. The trouble is that the French interpretation of the law of the sea is different from ours. So I don't blame the French. They can only operate within what they see as the law. So they can't intercept the people on the channel, although that's what would stop it if they could. So it's got to be more people on the beaches. The government are doing things like putting people into the French control headquarters at Cap Gris-Nez. So that's a positive move. The moves that the Prime Minister announced yesterday, again, they're helpful. They're not the silver bullet, but they are helpful. If we get something on Rwanda, that will be helpful. They're small steps, but a lot of small steps might just work out.
Kevin Saunders, many thanks indeed. And as you look at the picture there, Suella Braverman quotes at the bottom of the screen. We will be hearing from the Home Secretary in a statement to the House of Commons at around about 12:30. My colleague Jane Secker is in the studio.
Neil, thanks very much. If you're just joining us, we can bring you the news that Sky News understands that the number of people that have been recovered on this small boat, between 30 and 50 when it went down in the Channel. Searches will continue all day. But at this stage, sources say 43 people were rescued from the boat. 3 people are known to have died. It is feared, of course, that more could have perished. The incident happened, and these are images of it, around halfway between the Kent coast and the coast of France. 2 search and rescue helicopters plus a French Navy helicopter, RNO lifeboats and other UK and French Navy boats have all been involved in that rescue. Joining me now, Sky correspondent Tamara Cohen. Tamara, what more can you tell us?
So what we're hearing is that while it sounds clear that there have been some fatalities, we're hearing at least 3 fatalities from this awful incident.
Sendwave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With Sendwave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, Sendwave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use Sendwave? Sendwave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about Sendwave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clemens, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and intact? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination intact. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
It's your man. Show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Starr Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We they call them London for home. For here, we they call them London. And that's how you know. Just have fun and stay blessed.
The best radio show. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio UK. Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Hey there, this is Archie, and it's a Starr Radio UK and the morning show.
This is Starr Radio. This is UK. Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Welcome. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio. Starr Radio. Radio for the people, by the people.
Welcome. Hey listeners, this is Starr Radio UK, your favorite Afro-Caribbean radio station in London, and we wish all our listeners a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Stay blessed.
In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth, and those of you all on other planets as well. We salute you all, and we say once again, welcome to the Starr Radio UK morning show. Today is Wednesday, the 14th day of December, the year 2021. 11 days more for the big day. And let me take this opportunity to say good morning to my team this morning, Mr. Olayomi Koiki and Mr. Francis Guy, my able producer, who is doing making sure I'm warm and the program and everything is sticking along nicely. Good morning to you and thank you very much to Mr. Frank Davis working behind the scenes as well. Massive good morning to you and to all our wonderful listeners in Ghana as well. Oluwa Kayode Daniel, good morning to you. And then to Kule Adeyemi, good morning to you all. Bishop Adeshina, good morning. Aziz, good morning to you. Miss Gold, massive good morning. Anthony Adedeji, massive good morning to you all. And I'm saying good morning to Sir Maxwell himself. The one and only Sir Maxwell. Wherever you are, massive good morning to you. Anthony Adedeji, massive good morning. All our listeners in Nigeria, those of you in Ghana, those of you in South Africa, those of you in Uganda, Kenya, and my Liberian listeners, I salute all of you. Our listeners in the Americas, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Tosino, I hope you are doing very well. Tosino is in Moscow. Kojadi, massive good morning to you. My brother Felix, all the way in Aberdeen, massive good morning to you all. Mr. Kofi Ali Abdul Yekin, good morning to you. Well, another cold day here in London, but I'm going to make sure we bring the humph. Make sure some warmth comes your way. But wherever you are, let's have a hot or cold drink, whichever is appropriate, and let's get on this journey. Yeah, at times it gets bumpy, but hey, be rest assured of one thing for sure. I'll get you to your destination. It is Starr in the UK. I remain yours sincerely, the one and only.
This is the morning show with Archie.
Share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages as well as I bring you some Christmas tunes made in the African port and the surrounding Ghana port. Okie dokie. Well, as a Wednesday edition of the morning show, this is how the program goes. We're going to bring you the quote for the day, the weather forecast will follow suit, then the travel updates as well. We'll move from there to have a look at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe, known as Global Trotting. Then at 11 o'clock, we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who will be joining in to bring you updates from Nigeria. The program continues from there. 11:30, the lines are open for you to add your voice to the discussions if you want to. And then we'll continue from there. Exactly at 12 o'clock, we'll take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. But a sad story happening, going on at the moment. Some rescue mission going on in the English Channel, where so far 3 people are feared dead, but about 40 people or 43 people have been rescued. But it's an ongoing incident, and therefore we'll bring you more on that front as well. And I say to everyone who's lost their lives there, may their souls rest in perfect peace. But all this it's difficult. It's difficult. Why do you think people will risk their lives if where they are is comfortable? And that's why I always say that our leaders, they have to stand up and make sure that they are counted. Let me say good morning to Ridwan Adebayo. Good morning to you. I hope you are doing very, very well, Ridwan. So let's crack on then. The quote for the day says, what good is success if you don't share it with someone? Now, if you say you're successful, look, I've got all the monies across the globe. Yes, I'm very, very rich, but I don't share it with you. I share it with some people. How would that be like? It would not be good, would it? Well, so when you have it, share it. And that's why we are here this morning to share with you all the good stuff that is going on here. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's crack on because it's a Wednesday edition of the morning show. We are always pressed with time because we finish the program at 12 o'clock. Okay, so let's crack on straight on to the weather front. What is happening on the weather front this morning? Well, it's going to be likely dry and cold this afternoon with variable amounts of cloud. Any sunny spells will be rather hazy as well. Now tonight, we'll start with cloudy skies and only a few clearer breaks. Now similar conditions are early in the overnight period. Now, however, cloud will start to recede towards dawn. A chance of mist and a fog expected as well. Now temperatures, top temperature 2 degrees, the lowest -4. UV level low, pollution low. Sunset 15:51 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 07:59 hours. That brings us to the end of the weather forecast for you today, Wednesday, the 14th day of December. Share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages as well. Okay, so we'll be bringing you some more of the music, but now let's take a quick break so that I can bring you the travel update. It is all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads, keep your eyes on the roads. As we keep you navigated, I promise our bond. That's our Radio K travel update that comes your way every weekday from 10:40. It's now 10:46. And what is your travels like? Now, on the underground this morning, the Beckerloo line has got past suspension between Queen's Park and Harrow and Wisdom due to strike action. The strike action is going on. The Central line also due to no service between Liverpool Street and Erpin via Newbury Park while they respond to a fire alert. Severe delays on the rest of the line, but London buses, Chiltern Railways and Great Anglia are accepting tickets via any reasonable route. On the second line as well, there are minor delays. District line, minor delays. Elizabeth line, severe delays. Hammersmith and City lines, minor delays there as well. Waterloo and City line have also got minor delays. But London Tram Link has also got severe delays, all pertaining to strike actions and availability of trams as well there. But other side, Jubilee, Metropolitan, Northern, Piccadilly, Victoria, and DLR are all in good service. But keep your eyes on the roads, keep your eyes on the roads. As we keep you navigated, I promise, our board. On the major roads in London, A20, A24, A3, A4, Central London Red Routes and North Circular A406 have all got closures. That aside, all the others, no exceptional delays. Now keep your eyes on the roads, keep your eyes on the roads as you keep you navigated, I promise our bond. Now moving on to the river bus, apart from the Woolwich Ferry, that's got special service, all the others have got good service there. London Cable Car has also got good service, but now let's land on the National Rail. On the National Rail, due to the strike action, the 48-hour strike action, therefore, if you are traveling via any route, please check before you leave. Apart from the West Midlands train that is running good service, all the rest have got special service. So on that note, once again, let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today, but you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the road.
From SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820, or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Prampram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Prampram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Okay, welcome back to the program. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Yes, being taken good care of by my able producer, Mr. Francis Guy here. But now let's go global, trot in. Yes, with some of the stories making the rounds. As I did say earlier on, here in London, well, death confirmed after migrant boat incident. A small number of people died after a boat got into difficulties in the English Channel, the government has said. Numbers have not been confirmed yet, but we'll be feeding you with more of it. And the inflation eases to 10.7%, but still near 40-year high is some of the stories making the rounds there. An explosion in central Kiev after air raid warning. Well, it's a sad one there, but well, I ask the question all the time: when will this war ease or end? Well, Messi and Alvarez shine as Argentina reach final. The fifth final for them, World Cup final for them. What do you think? Football enthusiasts, what do you think about all that? But well, it is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. When it comes to Nigeria presidency, 2023 presidency, why I lost PDP ticket? Governor Wike finally spills. So what happened? Why he lost that? Okay, and Jonah Jang shans Atiko in Plateau. Jonah Jang shans Atiko in Plateau State. And then fuel scarcity, trouble for NNPC. Oil marketers as lawmakers take strong decisions. What decisions are they taking? Well. Tinubu article Obi so to watch out as Senate moves to limit next president. Okay, we'll tell you more about that front. Okay, and how Nigeria Central Bank Governor Emefiele diverted 89 trillion naira stamp duty fund into private account with plans to acquire government assets. Presidential Committee on Stamp Duties has revealed. Well, we'll be telling you more about that. But you stay tuned. Don't touch the dial. Starr Radio UK. Okay. Now, US seeks to re-establish straight political ties with Africa. The story says that Africa is a new terrain of geostrategic confrontation between the United States, China, and Russia. Washington is hosting for 3 days political leaders from the African continent. Well, as I did say, they are doing their best. Knowing that others are trying to wriggle themselves in there, they want to wriggle themselves out there. But what are our leaders going to do there? Are they going to, play tough, make sure that they get whatever we want out of it, or are they going to be lording it over them once again? Opposition condemns ANC for shielding Ramaphosa against graft probe. It's one of the stories making the rounds on the African continent, and this time around in South Africa as well. Now, moving on straight to some of the other stories making the rounds in other parts of Africa. Well, fuel prices to fall significantly from December 16, 2022. That's what Ghanaians are saying. The Ghanaian leadership are saying. But what do you think? And then Iyoko retrieves 37 imported stolen luxury vehicles. Whoops. That's a serious one. And Parliament suspends approval of 80 million Ghana cedis for National Cathedral. So where is the president going to be getting that money to continue with that project? Well, UK opens door for Nigerian teachers to also come in. Well, if you're a teacher, you want to embark on that journey? Yes. Something for you, but you should be strong-minded to do that, because the kids here, my goodness, different ball game. All right then, and I was given 2,000 cities to mobilize youth for 2020 elections. George Opare Addo is saying. Well. So this and a lot more going to be coming your way from Ghana as well on Starr Radio UK. And what should we do with it now? With the Pratt on a Cedric KTS leaked alleged audio. What do you think can be done about it, or to be done about it? Citizen journalist Kwesi Pratt has cast doubt over the leaked audio recording purportedly containing the voice of the National Democratic Congress General Secretary Johnson Esiedun Ketia, who is heard alleging that the party didn't have concrete evidence during their election 2020 petition to the Supreme Court. Well, is it somebody, because they are having a leadership contest there in the executives of the NDC, that's the biggest opposition party in Ghana, and he is vying for the the chairmanship, a national chairman, with Ofosu Ampofu, who is the incumbent, and maybe people from the Ofosu camp might just be throwing all this thing into actually weaken his stance to be able to win that position. But what do you think? This is a lot more going to be coming your way. Sharifat, good morning, Agbabiaka. Sharifat Agbabiaka, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us as well. I hope I didn't massacre your name. If I did, my apologies there as well. But it's Starr Radio UK. We'll take a musical break, and whilst we wait, Miss Olayomi Koiki will be joining us at 11 o'clock, and we'll be bringing you updates from Nigeria. Anthony Adedeji, thumbs up to you too. Starr, enjoy this music, and we continue with the show.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Okay, so damn some Christmas tune made in African port, but it's around from the Ghanaian port as well. Your Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. The 14th day of December, the year 2022, with the time now 2 minutes past 11. And it's time for updates from Nigeria. With our own, and still the White Lion, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who has joined in from our North London studios. And let me take this opportunity to say, Yomi, massive good morning to you.
Very good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning, Frank. Good morning to our presenters and all the sound engineer. Good morning to our listeners. And due to time, let me come back straight away to you in the studio.
Yes, so how are you doing, sir?
Well, apart from the cold weather that we're trying to manage, I'm doing very well. And it's good to be back on the Wednesday edition discussing more news from Nigeria, and especially as all the African leaders all down in America getting ready as they kickstart yesterday for the U.S. summit between the American government and all our African leaders. And it seems Ghanaian president is already throwing the first punch. We're going to be discussing that later on.
Yes, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios, and we are bringing you updates from Nigeria, Wednesday edition, and therefore that is a very fast and quick one, very quick pace, but we wanted to still continue to join in. Now, this morning there's been this story developing in the English channel here, and we know that most of our people, because of the way our leaders have led our country and actually have ruined the country, our children, our siblings, our families keep on running from the countries to seek greener pastures. We have Buhari who is saying that, you know what, I've done my best in that past of what, almost 8 years now. He said he's done his best. We are big in size and population, facing many challenges, but in many areas we are trying. In 7.5 years, I have done my best. Whether his best is good enough or not, I'm not sure of the number of people or the category of people who have been caught up in this issue that is going on. But when you hear such issues that is going on, people crossing the channel at this time, look at the weather. I mean, just imagine the weather, and they're crossing that channel and everything. How do you see our leaders at all, and what is going on at all?
Well, our leaders have been, when you look at it from the, when we came back to democracy, and I was actually reviewing that, during my early morning program this morning. So, I mean, the Buhari government is running out of time to fix some of the problems that he also faced after the 16 years of the PDP. The PDP spent as many more years than this current government, and you would have expected some changes, in the country, at least, to a minimal level. But what we have seen is it is almost the same failure that the PDP left that the APC is actually living as well. And, as the time clock is, is getting closer, more questions are now being asked. Last week, if you remember, we actually reviewed on Niger Voices, the whole term of this government. And I went back to some of the interview Buhari gave, as somebody that the expectation was there. I remember, the diaspora here in UK welcomed him, even though some were very, very skeptical because of some of his views, some of his handling of, when he actually overthrown a sitting government, a civilian government, because Buhari actually overthrown, and he was able to say, as at that time, there was what we called corruption in the government.
Shagari's government.
Shagari's government. And that was the reason why he actually had to overthrow the government, whether people agree to that or not. But, fast track, down the line, he has come back wearing agbada, and presenting himself as that good man that never wanted to kidnap somebody here in the UK, but he was eventually able to kidnap and rendition, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya, with, some of those that sold Nnamdi Kanu, to the government as well. And right now, as the Ghanaian president is giving a punchline to our leaders, saying, according to the headline, Ghana president tells President Muhammadu Buhari and all other African leaders to stop begging. You can't continue to beg, because, your begging, is not anything to be thinking of. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo has called on President Muhammadu Buhari and other African leaders to stop begging for foreign aid. The question you've asked is, why is our leader not done so much so that we can have a better country? The question, according to Chief Tola Adeniyi, some few years ago, Nigeria itself is fallacy.
So Nigeria itself is fallacy. Now, what do you think about all that? Michael Opoku, good morning to you, and thank you very much for watching us. But interestingly, like the call by the Ghanaian president that African leaders should, go begging, calabash in hand, saying, okay, Lalasumila, give me something. Now, we say that, but our action speaks different. You get it? Nigeria is struggling. Now, instead of the government to cut down on its own, like what they are paying the senators, what they are paying some people, and I just saw one story that even made me angry about the CBN. It just made I'm asking myself, what are these people actually thinking? But then they will come and tell the ordinary person that you have to squeeze, you have to try hard, and then stuff like that. So why wouldn't our people try to cross the channel to say they want a better life for themselves? So you get it?
Yeah, you're quite right. 3 have died, 43 have been actually rescued, and I believe there will be more coming from the Home Office. I've been following that news, in terms of those who are trying to run away from their countries, either Albania, either Africa. But also, it seems that the UK government will say that we are trying our best to see if we can bring in the best out of Africa. So by next year, if you are a teacher, you are likely to qualify to be here in UK, according to one of the news headlines that we have as well. So also we've seen our doctors, about 500 of them have left Lagos State. Some of them end up here in UK or other countries. But the UK continue to say we are opening our doors, and their doors now will be opening more to Nigerian teachers. So that means we're also going to be losing more teachers. That will japa. Nigeria has been listed among African countries whose citizens can now apply for qualified teacher status through the Teaching Regulation Agency in the United Kingdom from February next year. Other foreign countries which the offer extended to include Ghana, Hong Kong, India, Jamaica, Singapore, South Africa, Ukraine, and Zimbabwe. So maybe that will lessen those that are trying to go through the channel where it's so difficult, because when you go through those routes, it could be very, very extreme, and you could be exploited as well.
Yeah.
And so many people have lost their life, trying to do so.
Well, interesting. Listeners, Star Radio UK, 10 minutes past the top of the hour, the time. Oluwa Kayode says, good morning, Mr. Koiki. I know that very soon the game will be over in our Yoruba land. God bless Yoruba nation. And Prince OG, he says, good morning. They are rulers, talking about the leaders of our country, African leaders. They are rulers, not leaders, because they don't have the attitude of a visionary, true leader, which I agree with him 100%. You will see the Ghanaian president traveling from one state or one region to the other, and the convoy that they are using, as if we are like sultans living somewhere in what do you call it, Qatar or Saudi Arabia, where they've got lots of money that they don't know what to use it for. But if you stand there and say, oh, I'm advising you, we don't have to go borrowing, and we behave that way, the opulence, then I think that we are far away from being leaders. But as Prince is saying, that they are rulers. It is Star Radio UK. Let's move on to some other stories making the round. Let's talk about the CBN governor, the Central Bank of Nigeria governor Emefiele, who is supposed to have diverted 89 trillion naira. For what? Is it his money? How did he divert it? Yummy.
Well, there's a lot of things going on in Nigeria that could battle your thinking, but the secretary of the dissolved presidential committee on the reconciliation and recovery of stamp duties revenue, Kazu Kudaji, have said that he wants to speak to the president before he was able to leave, Castina to US, but he wasn't given the opportunity. He has now also narrated how 89 trillion naira from stamp duties was misappropriated and diverted by the current governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, who is on our screen to your left-hand side, and the president. But Gabashew, the presidential spokesman, on Saturday debunked Kazuru 89 trillion missing fund, claiming adding that it was ludicrous that a member of the parliament would claim to be secretary of an executive committee. Kazaru has said his committee was secretly constituted by President Muhammadu Buhari with Adetola Adekoye and him as the chairman and the secretary respectively. He explained that in a letter dated 8th of August, sought the approval of President Buhari to set up the committee that also include the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, the Director General of the Department of State Services, Yusuf Bichi, Mohammed Wakili, a retired Commissioner of Police, and one Mr. Kafo, a retired staff of the National Intelligence Agency. A source in the government told the paper that on Wednesday that the President Muhammadu Buhari is not aware of a lot of things going on in his government, including details of the stamp duty. And that has always been our own question. I mean, we know that Nnamdi Kanu said the president is there. The president proved himself, in one of his foreign trips to say, this is the Buhari. I'm not sure whether, Nnamdi Kanu knows what he's talking about. Even though charges on that were not labeled on Nnamdi Kanu that the president is actually there. But we'll probably see if there'll be a DNA test to say that. But the question is that, is the president still aware of what is going on around his government, or is he saying that I have done my best in the last 7.5 years and I don't think I can do more? I have done my best for Nigerians. Buhari tells some of the U.S. gathering, we are big in size, in population about 206 million, even though China say we've been able to take out about almost more than what you are claiming to have as a country out of what is called poverty. About 300 million people have been removed out of poverty according to China. But it seems that Buhari disagrees, says we are so big in size, in population, we are facing many challenges. What are the reasons why we are facing these challenges is why so many people are now asking whether we should cut it down in terms of the size so that each part can take good care and there will not be what they call a subdue which has actually happened in the northern part of the country. And I have asked the question, should Tinubu, Atiku and Obi be the president? What is going to happen after 8 years? Are they going to be coming back to tell us that they have done their best, according to Buhari, that is actually saying the same thing? President Buhari said he has done his best for Nigerians, despite worsening economic hardship and insecurity. The Nigerian leader stated this while he was welcoming the Secretary General of the Abu Dhabi Foreign Forum, Sheikh Mohammed Bia, which I believe these are the kind of royals that you're talking about, that most of our government wants to leave the same, and his deputy, Pastor Bob Robert of the U.S., who visited him in Washington, according to the statement. He noted that their work promoting multi-faith dialogue was as important, but the question is, 89 trillion is nowhere to be found, and it seems somebody is not telling the truth to the government, and the government itself is trying to defend that.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether all this trade can be traced and then they find out with this, but I hope that they're not going to tell us that some snake somewhere, a very big python, managed to swallow all this 89 trillion. That would be quite mind-boggling. But the issue is, we said that he who goes to equity must go with a clean hand, or must go with equity. So if somebody who is alleged to have, squandered or diverted an amount of that sort is still in that position, then I beg to say that Buhari actually is out of touch, right?
Well, I mean, it seems already that, like I said, if that is the Buhari that we know in the 80s, definitely it seems maybe due to health reasons that they are not sharing with Nigeria because they spend most time here in UK, is definitely out of touch with some of the happenings around his government.
Okay, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK, 17 minutes past the top of the hour, the morning show. Well, the other bit on his statement that he made pertaining to how big Nigeria is he accepting the fact that he thinks that it's ungovernable and therefore should be broken into pieces, as most people are clamoring for? Is that what he's trying to admit to?
Well, he's not actually admitting to that, but he's definitely admitting that we have a lot of problems. The president spoke about the need to raise generations of youth to devoid of religious extremists, bigotry, urging the group to continue to target the young people. But right behind you is the 22 years old that was actually killed in February. He will be buried this Friday, having the wakekeeping today. That is, Olayomi Anyanwola, that was killed in Lagos State. This is a youth that you will expect that the system needs to be, protecting such. She's a female passenger that boarded a transport system in Lagos State, but eventually did not reach her destination. Buhari also could have done a little bit more, to have safeguarded, this individual or the Lagos State. So the question around, if Buhari agrees that the country should break apart, I don't think he agrees to that, but he's definitely agreeing that he has done his best. Our problem is just too many because we are big in size. And if we are facing many challenges, could it be, that some of those challenges, you talked about equity, I was talking about justice. It seems that we have same mind, because I was looking at what is the full meaning of justice, equity, and fairness. Do we have such in Nigeria today? And the question is that when we have, enough sitting senator from the northern part of the country, due to the fact that the first ever census was rigged by the British government in 1959 that gave them the upper edge. Maybe we could have a balance, and that means that, when we talk about the insecurity, somebody like Bamishe will have been protected by state police and such, and so many other issues as well. But today, according to the former president Goodluck Jonathan, Nigerian unity is only a British intention. But Buhari still believes that we can have a one Nigeria, just as his party continue the campaign across the country. Tinubu was in the northern part of Nigeria yesterday in Kaduna, where he was well welcome, and he was also saying that he will be dealing with all the terrorists, in the country, should he become the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We say this: talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. He can say that we had Buhari promising heaven and what, and then what are we seeing? He's now saying that, well, I've done enough. It's too big for me. Well, but Yomi, we will come to other issues. But I'm looking at regional governance. Are they all thinking about maybe let's have? I mean, we don't want to break the country up. Okay, but we can have regional governance as it was in the past, so that it's not too big for one person to control. So that we have that, and we have the federal there in between that will see who will be the bigger. That every information will be fed to, but everybody is like a dissolved government as we have here.
Well, regional government was actually what the leaders got, and these are some of those leaders. On your left hand side to the start with is Obafemi Awolowo. We have Nnamdi Azikiwe, Azikiwe to the far right, and in the middle is another screen is covering that we have Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. Nigeria officially, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is a country in the West, is a regional power in Africa, but we actually got a regional government until that was something that a lot of question is now asking whether it can go back to that. But it seems that the politicians are enjoying, from the governors, the deputy. So nobody is actually pushing as much apart from, people like the social cultural group, the Onaize, the Afenifere, and the rest as well. Nigeria was granted a full independence in October 1960 as a federation of 3 regions: the northern region, the western region, and the eastern region, under a constitution that provides for parliamentary form of government. All that has been thrown into the dustbin, and today everybody continue to clamor for a country that should go back to what it was before. But the president, the governors, the citizens, the House of Reps says that we are amending the constitution that was actually a military decree that was forced into the hands of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, that have also talked out to say that you can't just force me, to accept anything. This is now Obasanjo speaking, at Enugu, where he was actually in attendance to the burial ceremony of, one of the elder statesmen. I have gone to prison, shed blood for Nigeria. Nobody can threaten me over my preferred 2023 presidential election candidate. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has said there is nothing to threaten him with in his choice of presidential candidate. Obasanjo spoke at the Onaize Indigbo National Secretary in Enugu when he and the leader of the Apex Social Cultural Group, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, signed a condolence. The question then is, can we see a new government of Peter Obi, or a new government of Bola Tinubu, or a new government of Atiku to take us back to that regional government, or to restructure? Atiku said, I will give you an autonomy, which he would then probably devolve power to the local government, because presently all the state governors across the 36 states are making use of more power, and that is less to those in their local government. And if you look at Oyo State as an example, that have about 30 local government, some have never witnessed or tasted anything such as government in Oyo State.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, with the time now exactly 11:23. With me in the studio, my able producer, and in our North London studio, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, and we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. That is, I will hand over to him for him to bring more to you. But Ruth, good morning to you, Ruth. I hope you are doing very, very well. Thank you very much for joining us once again. Over to you, Yomi.
Well, it's going to touch a little bit more because of the time constraint this morning. 100,000 residents enroll in Nasarawa Health Insurance Scheme. And likewise, Osibajo will be presiding over the Federal Executive meeting while the President is in the United States of America. Rape Uni-Learning student, 2 undergraduate students will be sentenced to death. Quite a lot of painful time, especially when our female in the country have been raped and killed. A Kwara State High Court sitting in Ilorin, presided over by Justice Ibrahim Yusuf, yesterday have sentenced 2 students, Abdulaziz Ismaila and Ajala Oluwatimileyin, to death for the murder of a 300 level undergraduate of University of Ilorin, Blessing Olajide. Olajide was actually raped and killed by the duo in June 2nd, 2021 last year at her sister's house there in Ilorin. We pray, for the soul of the departed, and those that are also been sentenced. We can only hope that they will repent before they are also taken out of this world that we live. Hoodlums remove a 12-year-old student eye. Police now hunt for the suspect. That is again part of the atrocity happening somewhere in Bauchi State. 2 yet to be identified hoodlums in Kafin Madaki, headquarters of Ganjua local government area of Bauchi State, have removed one of the eyes of a 12-year-old student. The victim, Najib Hussein, an indigene of Kano State, came to Kafin Madaka to acquire Quranic education. The Bauchi State Police Public Relations Officer Ahmed Wakili confirmed the incident yesterday. He said the State Commissioner of Police, Aminu Hassan, has now ordered a thorough investigation into the incident, adding that the manhunt for the suspect began. Well, when they say manhunt, I'm not sure whether such manhunt with a complex situation that we have in Nigeria will be fulfilled, but we pray that somebody will be able to do the rightful thing. Edo police rescued 2 kidnapped women. Shokoto man adopt neighbor and a 7-year-old son. 6 arrested over cops killing. Gunmen adopt women as well. So we go straight to the social media. And once again, this is Star Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. I'm not sure why Osibajo is trending, and I've been able to look into that. I know the president is not around, and each time the president is not around, that means the battle comes to the vice president. But aside being a brilliant and intelligent man, according to Kemishola Adekunle, dignity and integrity, aside from a great foresight and doing all for a better country, I beg this Osibajo get trips. But it doesn't seem that the star boy have shined as much. Osibajo and wife also attend the Aso Villa Christmas concert. Is one of those, I believe, is reason why is actually trending. 2022 Christmas Carol held yesterday at the Presidential Villa was hosted by the Vice President Osibajo. So it seems Christmas is already ongoing in Aso Rock, but I'm not sure Christmas is going across the country. So let's take a look at what's happening more on the social media this morning at 11:27. Charlie Boy, area father. I have gone to prison, share blood for Nigeria. Nobody can threaten me. Repeated the same thing that Obasanjo have actually said. Yesterday was all in Kogi State for Peter Obi, where he continued his campaign trail with his presidential vice president Dati, that is also in Kogi State. Like I said, Tinubu was in Kaduna. Likewise, as Atiku continue his movement as well. So let's see more. Again, Simon Ekpa, the Nigerian internet fraudsters hiding under the obedient Peter Obi, can report from now till after February, when we will not allow Nigeria election in Biafra land, and getting ready for the final battle for freedom. You can cry from today until you grow old. We must force into freedom. So it seems that more people continue to report Simon Ekpa, but he says that is not going to stop the Biafra from their own exit. Kingsley Moghalu was one time a presidential aspirant himself, but it seems now that he's just probably sitting behind the fence and continue to bring some of the tweet out. The last one, the reason why most African countries like Nigeria have a lot of strategic natural resources but remain impoverished are mainly bad governance, which originate in bad politics, include corruptions and sectionalism, weak and dependent institution. And if you don't have that institution like we have presently, this can change in either two ways. Relatively quickly, within 16 years, if we elect the right kind of leaders back to back or over a long time, say 50 years after we might have gotten to the bottom of the barrel of misery and conflict and get tired of being a poor country. But there are some that respond. Prosper Kalaba say, now we can agree that oil isn't a cause. Leadership and other factors are the main problem. 11:29, let's take a few more from that comment section. Kingsley Moghalu respond back and say, it has been a cause for Nigeria. We did better as a country when oil was not a major factor in the economy. Somebody was actually saying that I think we thought the first oil was found in 1956. I'm not sure how true that is. Again, another comment says, secondly, poverty of value. Every functional society must be guided by a very well-defined value system. What is the value system upon which Nigeria functions? This is another crucial question that must be answered before any progress is made. But Chief Tola Adeniyi told us that Nigeria is a fallacy. Jonathan said Nigeria unity is only a British intention. And Chief Tola Adeniyi also told us that the North has already been subdued. And that is why a lot of people that believe in the right to self-determination keep saying that we cannot sit back behind the fence and allow those that are removing our identity from us. We might become a conquered territory if care is not taken, because it now look back when I was reviewing it last night that there's been so many people coming into Nigeria for a very long time from Togo, from Ghana, but immigration was not a concern until now. Some of us have traveled out of the country and we now really understand the word immigration, which is exactly what is playing out at the English Channel this morning, where more people are trying to get into this country for one reason or the other. The question now is, we are no longer seeing people that are coming from Togo to Nigeria. In those days, that will be selling, what we call beans and yam and pepper that we enjoy. We now have more criminal terrorists, jihadis, that are coming with AK-49, kidnapping individuals, collecting ransom, and sometimes Nigerians are losing their lives. The question then is, can we have a new government in place, or can we say the right to self-determination, these two push is going to all be witnessed within the next how many days? Let's look at our countdown on Star Radio UK. 58 days, 12 hours, 28 minutes, and the seconds is going down. What will be the fate of Nigerians coming 2023? All that, we'll continue to discuss that on Star Radio UK.
Wow, listeners, there's always lots that we want to bring your way, but because of time, let me say thank you. Good morning to Olayomi Kilanko Ogabi. He says good morning, Star Radio UK, Archie, Frank, Olayomi, and all the other fans as well. Good morning to you. I hope you are doing very, very, very well. But Yomi, what are we looking at tonight on the Niger Voices?
Is Nigeria truly a fallacy? And can we still keep in Nigeria? Or is it time as a dissolution will be the next option? All these we continue to review as election versus the right to self-determination is still on the pipeline, as we can say. So we'll be discussing that later on this evening at 1800 hours.
Okay, Yummy. Let me say thank you very much for that wonderful update. We'll catch up later.
Bye for now.
Right then. Bye-bye. Well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to exactly 28 minutes to the top of the hour, where I will be bringing you the Prime Minister's Question Time. So wherever you are, stay tuned. But let's take a musical break. Yes, this time around, something from All Stars, the All Stars, Niger All Stars, and pertaining to Christmas.
This is Starr Radio. This is Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Yellow, chicken, Vision, Red Carol, Christmas, Liquid, no policy.
Bells are ringing. It's Christmas time season. Lagos.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, Niger All Stars bring you some Christmas tune there. And I'm saying good morning to my Bishop Adeshina. I hope you are doing very, very well. Thank you very much for joining us once again. As many of you who have joined us this morning, yes. Let me say thank you very, very much. We've got only about 24 minutes to bring you or to take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. We're going to be having the Home Secretary as well, Braverman making a statement pertaining to what has happened over in the English Channel at the moment. But more is going to come your way. Joseph Josie Baba Lola says, Koiki Media Ododua, these mad people are still talking about 2023. They do not take our self-determination serious. We have to do worse things that will affect their we have to do worse things that we affect their citizens in our land. Okay, I hope that I read it nicely or clearly for you. But it's All Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Continue to share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages as well. But as Lomi said, this evening exactly at 18 hours BST, we'll be bringing you Niger Voices, where you have time to look at it. Is Nigeria truly a fallacy? Well, they're going to be looking at that. You want to add your voice to the discussions, feel free to do so. But at the moment, let's now go look at some of the other stories making the rounds in other parts of the world as well. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay. So back here as we did touch on briefly on the African continent, US seeks to re-establish political ties with Africa. Why? Because they think that China and Russia are making inroads there. Now, Washington is hosting political and economic leaders from the African continent for 3 days in a summit with many facets and where some countries are treated with particular attention. In economic development, we know that a lot is happening. A lot of ferment in the air in Angola, and we to be part of that growth story, or we want, okay, so typo there. We want to be part of that growth story. We want to attract private capital, including US capital, not just in the oil and the gas sector, which is the traditional area in which there has been investment, but in telecommunication and manufacturing and pharmaceuticals and agriculture. And in peace and security, we are privileged that very pleased to be partners with the Angolan government, the head of state and foreign ministers, and helping bring peace in the regional context, said Irvin Mazinga, the principal deputy assistant secretary, Bureau of African Affairs, Department of State. The Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, received on Tuesday President Lourenço, who reminded the U.S. administration of the ongoing changes in the Angolan foreign policy. So the leaders are there, but as I was saying earlier on, are they going to just be accepting everything that they say? Yes. I remember back in the day during President Trump's time that when he had a meeting with President Buhari, and I remember that Buhari's team went there. They didn't have any notes or anything that they were going to be writing on or stuff like that. I don't know whether maybe it was being recorded for them, and therefore that's what they were doing. But you see the Americans who were hosting, the president and his people who were hosting Buhari and his team, they were all prepared. They have files, they have things that they wanted to talk about. So when we go to such meetings and we are ill prepared, then whatever they tell us, whatever they sell to us, we just have to just take it like that. But how prepared are our leaders? Are they going to come back as the Ghanaian president that said, African leaders or African countries should not be going, or leaders go to other parts of the world, the advanced countries to be going borrowing, calabash in hand? But are they acting? Does their action speak the same way that their mouths are ranting? Well. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on to some other stories making the rounds there as well. Well, the opposition in South Africa is condemning the ANC for shielding Ramaphosa against the graft probe. The story says in South Africa, the ruling African National Congress Party, which holds a majority in parliament, largely stood with President Ramaphosa, preventing the motion from getting the two-thirds vote needed to proceed with his impeachment. However, the opposition Julius Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, criticized the move, vowing to go to court. Now, today is a sad day in South Africa, where Parliament sits to reject a report that is of their own initiative that was spending not less than 6 million on doing those investigations, and thus decided to throw that 6 million into a bin. It is a sad day for the Constitution of South Africa and for the democracy of South Africa. We think there is no rational reason why we came to the conclusion we came to, and as a result, we are going to court to challenge the decision of Parliament, said Malema. What happened? One other leader now in South Africa bring about unrest. When I say unrest, I'm talking about not politically, but I'm talking about economically. What do you think about that? Yes, it's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Major irregularities in the management of Senegal COVID-19 funds, report is saying. Well, it's not only that. Ghana, up to now, have not actually been able to account for what those monies were used for. We know they've gone on to say, oh yeah, we use it for this, we use it for that, but it doesn't wash. So what do you think about all that? It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, some good news for Ghanaians, but for how long? Well, and how much? The prices of petroleum products are expected to fall significantly beginning this Friday, December 16, 2022. The Institute for Energy Security, that's the IES, has projected. According to the IES, the expected price drops won't be significant due to the 6.6% appreciation of the cedi against the US dollars. It said the new prices will fall to about 13 Ghana cedis and 16 Ghana cedis per liter for petrol and diesel, whilst liquefied petroleum gas will go for about 12 Ghana cedis per kilogram. Even before that, some oil marketing companies have begun reducing prices of petroleum products at the pumps. With a continued price fall recorded on the international market, the consumers are set to see further price relief at the pumps. The Institute of Energy Security predicts that on the back of 9.02%, 8.08%, and 7.38% fall in the prices of gasoline, petrol, gas oil, and LPG respectively, the domestic OMC's outlets are set to reduce their prices further. So good on them, good on them. But what is news about the cedi appreciating? What has happened? Is it confidence in the system, or is it just because maybe what? The IMF is saying that when everything is done and settled, Ghana is going to be trying to be giving Ghana 3 billion over a period of 3 years, where they can be able to, whether pay their debts or whatever thing that they want to do there. Well, what do you think? What do you think? Well, it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK. Now, Parliament has suspended the approval of the 80 million for National Cathedral. Well, we had some people coming in to say that, well, that shouldn't happen. It should go on challenged, but the Trades and Industry Committee of Parliament has put on hold the approval of 80 million Ghana cedis allocated for the construction of the National Cathedral. The allocation, which was made to the Ministry of Tourism, has failed to receive endorsement by the committee because some members want more answers from the sector minister. According to Tamale Central MP Mutala Muhammad, who disclosed this, he said until the committee is satisfied, they will approve the ministry's estimates without the funds allocated to the National Cathedral. Now, what the committee decided was that we cannot approve this 80 million Ghana cedis. We must know how the 339 million was spent. Now, what it constitutes, the 80 million you want us to approve, how did it find space in the budget line of the Ministry of Tourism? You want us to approve, okay? The Ministry of Tourism, when the minister and the director could not speak to the question we were asking, what constitutes the 80 million? They should give us a breakdown, he disclosed in an interview. Well, how true is that? Very, very true, some will say. So let's see whether they'll come out with a justification. Maybe we need 10 million for iron rods, another 10 million for, but well, it's all Starr Radio UK. Now, interestingly, now, Kwesi Pratt has come out to condemn the alleged leaked tape of the leaked audio tape of Asiedu Nketia. Assistant journalist Kwesi Pratt has cast doubt over the leaked audio recording purportedly containing the voice of the National Democratic Congress. General Secretary Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who is heard, alleging that party didn't have concrete evidence during their election 2020 petition to the Supreme Court. On the tape recording, which has gone viral, Mr. Asiedu Nketia, affectionately called General Mosquito, who appeared to be talking to some NDC members in a closed door meeting, could be heard accusing and blaming the chairman of the party, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, for the party's shoddy work in relation to the election petition. He stated categorically that he denied having results when he stood in the dock during cross-examination at the Supreme Court because the NDC had no evidence to back their claims, and if he hadn't denied it, he would have been disgraced. Mr. Asiedu Nketia further revealed that lawyer Tatu Sikata, who defended the party earlier, refused to stand for the NDC because of the lack of concrete evidence, but decided to defend the party after the petition was reviewed. Now, when we were doing the collation, the system that is Chairman of Ofosu-Ampofo brought, saying it is robust and strong, we collated 5 regions and we are told it has crashed. This is the truth. So when we decided to go to the court, we agreed to do manual collation. Well, so that's what might have happened there. I remember back in the day when my colleague, Mr. Frank Davis, was talking about the fact that he thought the software that they decided to use wasn't robust enough to do the job that they had to do, and that could be one of the issues or penalties to their failure. So what do you think? Well. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. How many minutes? 12 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's quickly cross over. I'll bring you a couple of stories and I'll take you straight to the Houses of Parliament. Of course, I'll be bringing you some music as well. Now, explosions in Central Kiev after air raid warnings. Now, Mayor Kitchenko, Klitschko, my apologies, reports blasts in the central district of Ukraine's capital and air defenses are activated. Now, breakthrough in nuclear fusion energy announced. U.S. researchers have overcome a major barrier to achieving low carbon nuclear fusion. That's one of the stories making the rounds there as well. Megan, the stallion, testifies Tory lands short hair. The Grammy winner tells a jury of her torture after a Canadian rapper allegedly attacked her. Well, you want to follow that? Those of you who love all the celebrities, you can do so wherever you might be. And then grief and questions after shootout shocks Australia. Now, 6 people died on a remote property after 3 suspects abruptly opened fire on the police. Those are some of the stories making the rounds in other parts of the world, but it's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And let us now come here to the UK, and then we can bring the first part of the program to a close and take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. Okay, so 3 people dead after a migrant boat incident. That's information coming through, and it says that, well, At least 3 people died after a migrant boat ran into difficulties across the English Channel in the early hours, the government has said. BBC's Nick Eardley said a person close to the situation said 43 people had been saved, with more than 30 of them rescued from the water. A major search and rescue operation was launched in waters between Kent and France in freezing conditions. The Home Secretary said her heartfelt thoughts were with those involved. I am aware of the distressing incidents in the Channel this morning, and I am being kept constantly updated while agencies respond and urgently establish the full facts. The Home Secretary Zwala Braverman added, the boat is likely to have been carrying migrants risking the crossing from France a day after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced new measures to stop the boats. It is understood the small boat started sinking at about 03 hours GMT off the coast of Dangenes, 30 miles west of Dover. The UK Coast Guard, the French Navy, and air ambulances were all sent to help with the rescue operation. A fishing boat in the area and Coast Guard helicopters from Lead and Lee and Solent were also involved. Now, South East Coast Ambulance Services said it was called following reports of the incident and sent crew to Dover in Kent to help the follow-up operation. Well, that's a sad story that's happened this morning. But well, more or a couple of other stories coming your way, then we can move to the Prime Minister's question time. Well, price rises year on year slowed in November, with the inflation rate down to 10.7%, but the cost of living is still close to a 40-year high, squeezing millions of households and businesses. Now, food prices are still rising significantly, up 16.5% over the last 12 months. The price of fuel has fallen from record high, but this was offset by a rise in the cost of alcohol in restaurants, cafes, and pubs. Now, October's overall inflation rate of 11.1% was the highest for 41 years and up from 10.1% in September. The rate is worked out by the Office of the National Statistics, which notes the prices of hundreds of everyday items. And the Bank of England has warned inflation could top 13% this year and is expected to keep rising or raising interest rates to try to control it. Now, how can we stop the Bank of England from doing so? Because I think that they are just there and keeping on inflating the interest rate. Maybe we have to find a way to stop them from doing so. But in the United States, inflation was 7.1% over the 12 months. Inflation in Germany was 7.8%. In Sweden, Statistics Office saw that it was 11.5%. In Spain, to 7.3%. So how come that the UK's one is gone that high? My goodness. Well. It is Starr Radio UK, and this is where I'm bringing the program to a close after this last story here. Okay. That's pertaining to Freddie Flintoff. Andrew Freddie Flintoff hurt in a Top Gear incident or accident that happened yesterday. We wish him all the best, and we hope that he's doing well as well. Okay. Fire service in special measures over damming report, and post and rail workers walk out as strikes build. Okay. So those are some of the stories making the rounds. I'm expecting some delivery, I'm asking myself, are they going to deliver it or not? But I think this one, UPS is going to be doing it. I'm not sure about it, but whatever it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And now, 6 minutes to the top of the hour. But remember, this evening, exactly at 18 hours GMT, we'll be having Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you what? Niger Voices. And he said, what? He's going to be looking at, is Nigeria truly a fallacy? That is a question, a big one there. But we'll give you all the answers, or you can bring the answers when he comes on. So on that note, let me say thank you very, very much. But let's enjoy this tune, and then we will cross over to the Houses of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. Stay tuned. It's with me, Archie. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
And so this is Christmas. And what have you done? Another year over, and a new one's just begun. And so this is Christmas. I hope you have fun.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
And so this is Christmas, yeah. Tell me, what have we done? Why? Another year over, and a new one just begun. And so happy Christmas. We hope you have fun. The near and the dear ones, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year, and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one. Hope it's a good one, yeah. Without any fear. A very Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one. Hope it's a good one. Without any fear. A very Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one, without any fear.
We can't.
Thank you. Since being appointed with permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to answer question with permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to answer questions 7, 8 and 12 together. Since being appointed in October, I've met with a lot of representatives from European states, and my right honourable friend, the Minister of State, holds several good relationships with similar.
Owen Johnson. So, Speaker, there will clearly be a range of views in the protocol going forward, and in any election to the Northern Irish Assembly, those views will need to be outlined clearly. We know this government doesn't respect mandates that it sees coming forward from devolved assemblies, so can the Secretary of State give an assurance that he will respect the mandates coming forward from any Northern Irish Assembly election?
Secretary of State. I think there's one group of people who shouldn't lecture about not respecting democratic votes. However, This government, I believe, all parties in this place want to see the executive restored, the assembly restored, and should there be another election, that result respected as the last result should be respected.
John McNally.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has put the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill on ice to allow time for a UK-EU deal to be struck. So can the Minister commit to the House a deal will be struck before April next year, and that this pro-Brexit dispute will not hamper Good Friday Agreement celebrations and the UK's international relations with America and the EU?
I think I genuinely didn't think between the European Union and the United Kingdom government have changed dramatically in recent weeks and months, and that is the basis for all good things.
That completes those questions. Before we come to the Prime Minister's questions, I would like to point out the British Sign Language interpretation of proceedings is available to watch on Parliament Live TV. We start with questions to Prime Minister John Stevenson.
Number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will share my sorrow at the capsizing of a small boat in the Channel in the early hours of this morning and the tragic loss of human life. Our hearts go out to all those affected and our tributes to those involved in the extensive rescue operation. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, in addition to my duties in this House, including the visit of His Majesty the King. I shall have further such meetings later today.
John Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, a 3.5-hour journey takes 6 hours. A straight journey ends up with 2 changes and a diversion. A train is cancelled at short notice. This has become the experience of a West Coast rail passenger. If Avanti do not get their act together, will the government cancel their franchise?
Very popular question, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for raising this, and I share the frustration that this is causing to many of his and other communities. Our priority immediately is to support the restoration of services before then making any long-term decisions on the operation of the West Coast franchise, but we will be closely monitoring Avanti's rollout of its recovery plan and holding them account for delivering for passengers.
Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister? Our prayers go out to those who capsized in the freezing waters of the Channel last night. It's a reminder that the criminal gangs running those routes put the lives of the desperate at risk and profit from their misery. They must be broken up and brought to justice. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow will be the first ever nationwide nurses' strike. All the Prime Minister has to do to stop that is to open the door and discuss pay with them. If he did, the whole country would breathe a sigh of relief. Why won't he?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have consistently spoken to all the unions involved in all the pay disputes that there are. But I am glad he's raised our nurses, because they do incredible work, and it's worth putting on record. It's worth putting on record what exactly we have done for our nurses. Last year, when everyone else in the public sector had a public sector pay freeze, the nurses received a 3% pay rise. When the RCN asked for more in-work training, we gave every nurse and midwife a £1,000 training budget. And when they asked for nurses' bursaries, we made sure that every nursing student received a £5,000 grant. That's because we do work constructively, and we will continue to back our nurses.
Mr. Speaker, nurses going on strike is a badge of shame for this government. Instead of showing leadership, he's playing games with people's health. And there is a human cost. Alex from Chester has been waiting for a gallbladder operation for nearly 6 months. He's in so much pain, he's been off school since then. His operation has already been cancelled twice. His mum, who I spoke to this morning, is worried sick. When she heard that strikes could be called off, she was massively relieved. She's desperate for the Prime Minister to resolve this. All he needs to do is simply meet the nurses, Alex's mum is listening to this. She doesn't want to hear him blaming everybody else. She doesn't want his usual ducking of the question. She's tuned in now because she wants him to explain what is he going to do to resolve the nursing strike.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's not just Alex. There are millions of others across this country, Alex and Mark, millions of others who will have their healthcare disrupted because of the strike. Now, the honourable gentleman says to get round the table, but we all know what that means, Mr. Speaker. That is just simply a political formula for avoiding taking a position on this issue. If he thinks the strikes are wrong, he should say so. If he thinks it's right that pay demands of 19% are met, then he should say so. What's weak, Mr. Speaker, is he's not strong enough to stand up to the union.
Mr. Speaker,
we know it's Christmas, but the party's not started yet. Come on, kids.
Mr. Speaker, in 12 hours' time, there's a nurses' strike. All he needs to do is meet the nurses. His inaction speaks volumes. As ever with this Prime Minister, it's Tory politics first, patients second. We've never seen a nurses' strike like this before. They've been forced into it because the government has broken the health system. Ask anyone in the NHS. They will tell you they don't have enough staff. 133,000 vacancies. And there's an obvious solution. Scrap the non-dom status and use the money to bring through the next generation of doctors and nurses. That's what Labour would do. Why hasn't he got the guts to do it?
Mr. Speaker, we're already investing billions more in the NHS. We're already hiring thousands more doctors and nurses. But he asks about backlog. He asks about backlogs and the waiting times in the NHS. And yes, what he always fails to acknowledge is the impact that COVID did, Mr. Speaker. That's why we're facing pressures. But we do have a plan. Not just more money, not just more doctors and nurses, new diagnostic centres carrying out millions of checks and scans, new surgical hubs delivering more elective surgery. But if we'd listened to him, Mr. Speaker, the backlog would still be growing, and that's because we'd still be in lockdown.
As usual, Mr. Speaker, he tries to blame everyone else. His department commissioned a report into the NHS which reported on Monday. That report said we've had 10 years of managed decline. It was not COVID. Responsibility is sitting right there. And the reason he can't choose nurses over non-doms is because he's too weak to stand up to the tax avoiders. For 12 years, they haven't trained enough doctors and nurses. So we have the absurd situation of the NHS spending billions on agency workers to fill the gap. Why should the country have to put up with money that should be spent treating patients being wasted plugging gaps instead?
Mr. Speaker, let me tell the honourable gentleman what we are doing. We are actually listening to the independent pay review bodies. They want to undermine them. We've offered a fair pay deal. They can't even decide on a number amongst themselves. We're actually protecting the public. They're protecting their paymasters, Mr. Speaker. For working people in this country, it's Labour's nightmare before Christmas.
Here's Starr. There he goes again, pretending everything is fine. Try telling that to those on waiting lists or those that can't afford to pay for a next-day GP appointment. After 12 years of Tory failure, winter has arrived for our public services. And we've got a Prime Minister who has curled up in a ball and gone into hibernation. If he can't act on behalf of patients or nurses or everyone who wants these strikes called off, then surely the whole country is entitled to ask, what is the point of him and what is the point of the government he's supposed to be leading?
Mr. Speaker, he talks about COVID not having an impact. Ambulance waiting times for Category 1 ambulance waiting times in February of 2020 were actually completely on target, Mr. Speaker. COVID has an impact, and that's why, as the Chief Executive of the NHS has acknowledged, this government is serious about its commitment to prioritise the NHS. But, Mr. Speaker, let's just have a look at the NHS in Labour-run Wales, shall we? The worst A&E times in the country, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Starr.
Mr. Speaker, under the last Labour government, we had fair pay for nurses and no strikes. So I won't be taking lectures from him about that.
Order. Mr. Bowie, you promised to behave. Don't give me a Christmas present you won't want. Come on, Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, this is our final PMQs of the year. So I hope you will Oh, really? I hope you will... Mr. Speaker, what I was going to say was I hope you will pass on all of our thanks, at least on this side, to all those who kept our House and our democracy working. Yeah. And I want to finish this year thinking about our friends in Ukraine. As a result of Putin's barbaric assault on their freedom, millions will spend Christmas in sub-zero temperatures without heating, electricity or hot water. Their suffering is unimaginable, but their bravery is awe-inspiring. So will the Prime Minister join me in saying that whatever other difficulties and disagreements we have across this dispatch box, we are and will remain united in our unwavering support for Ukraine's freedom, its liberty and its victory?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I join with the honourable gentleman in thanking and paying tribute to all the staff of the House for the fantastic work that they do to support all of us. And I appreciate his comments on Ukraine. It has been a point of incredible unity across this House and indeed the country, something that we can all be proud of in our country, that we have stood behind Ukraine at its hour of need. And as I said yesterday, this Christmas, many families will be laying an extra place at their Christmas table, and that speaks to the generosity and compassion of our nation, and long may that continue.
Angela Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The A3 connects London to Portsmouth through Guildford, and I was delighted to see the new Solent Freeport announced last week, which will increase traffic flows. As the A3 narrows through Guildford, it is sadly the most polluted road in the strategic road network. Short-term sticking plasters like putting up 9-metre-high air pollution barriers that will entrench divisions in Guildford is not acceptable to me or my constituents. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that it is time to think big, it is time to think long-term, and it is time to tunnel the A3 under Guildford?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for the question. I know this is an issue that she has long championed. I am told that National Highways are developing a range of different possibilities and solutions for the A3 through Guildford, and I know the Department for Transport will consider the case as it plans its future infrastructure investments.
SNP leader Stephen Flynn.
I wish to join with the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition in extending my party's thoughts to all of those involved in the terrible tragedy in the Channel this morning. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, thanks to positive and proactive negotiations between the Scottish Government and Unite and Unison health unions, a pay settlement has been reached and strike action averted. Yep. By stark contrast, the UK Health Secretary appears completely unwilling to negotiate with unions on pay, and strike action is very much still on the table. Shame. So may I ask the Prime Minister, when will he see the error of his ways and follow the Scottish Government's lead?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the UK Government was able to provide £1.5 billion in extra funding to the Scottish Government for public services. The Health Secretary and other ministers have engaged fully, not just with the unions, but with an independent pay-setting process, which takes the politics out of the process and ensures that we can meet those independent requirements with a fair pay deal.
Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, let's be clear, those words will ring hollow in the ears of those people who, unlike the Prime Minister, can't nip into Waitrose for their shopping, nor indeed even turn on their heating at this moment in time. And that's particularly true for people in Scotland, because as we know, average energy bills in Scotland are not anticipated to be £2,500 per year. They're expected to be £3,300 per year. People are genuinely terrified, and that's despite the fact that Scotland produces 6 times more gas than we consume, with some 80% of our electricity coming from low-carbon sources. Decades of failed UK energy and regulatory policy coming home to roost. Is it not the case that Scotland has the energy? We just need the power.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the honourable gentleman raised the question of energy support. And it's because of the actions of this government that we are providing every household in this country with around £900 of support with their energy bills this winter, £55 billion worth of support. And on top of that, next year, there will be extra cost of living payments worth up to £1,200 for the most vulnerable, whether that's those on means-tested benefits, pensioners, or indeed disabled. This is a government that will always look after the most vulnerable in our society.
Stephen Metcalfe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my right honourable friend will know, the Mayor of London, despite objections, has decided to expand the ULEZ zone across all London boroughs, which will massively impact my constituents and those who share a border with London. Will he therefore urgently speak to the Transport Secretary and encourage him to use the powers at his disposal to reverse this disastrous decision?
Well, my honourable friend will know that transport in London is devolved to the Labour Mayor of London, but it is disappointing that the Mayor, backed by the Leader of the Opposition, is choosing not to listen to the public. The zone is being expanded against the overwhelming views of residents and businesses, and I'd urgently consider the Mayor and the gentleman opposite to be on the side of hard-working Londoners.
David!
Can I associate myself and my party with the comments made by others on the tragedy in the Channel? Our thoughts and prayers are with the families' victims. Mr. Speaker, 40% of cancer patients now wait more than 2 months for treatment after an urgent referral from a GP. That's the highest proportion on record and way above the government's own cancer waiting target. I lost both my parents to cancer as a child, and so like many people across the country and in this House, I know the devastating impact of treatment delays on cancer patients and their families. So I'd like to ask the Prime Minister 2 questions. First, can he give a cast iron guarantee that the dreadful cancer backlog won't get any worse? And second, when will the government meet its own cancer target?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very sorry to hear about the right honourable gentleman's parents. Indeed, I'm sure many of us across this House have our families have been tragically affected by what cancer does, and he's right to raise the importance of meeting our targets. And what I am able to tell him is we actually are experiencing very high numbers of cancer referrals following the pandemic. He'll be aware of that. But thanks to the brilliant work of our NHS staff, cancer treatment rates in the most recent month for which we have data are now back at pre-pandemic levels, with a plan for them to increase further. And recently the NHS also announced plans to fast-track patients direct to cancer tests rather than have to wait for specialist consultation first. These measures will make a difference, and I look forward to updating on them in the new year.
Terry Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the closure of the last bank in Cheadle, yet another of my local communities has been left totally bereft of a high street banking service. So I was pleased when I heard the announcement that Cheadle was to get a banking hub. Unfortunately, my delight was short-lived when on closer inspection I saw that it was Cheadle, Staffordshire. Whilst I remain pleased for the other Cheadle, would my right honourable friend agree with me that my constituents also need access to cash and banking facilities to protect businesses and support our high street? And will he support our local calls for post office banking hubs?
My honourable friend is a fantastic champion for Cheadle in Greater Manchester. she will know that the Financial Services and Markets Bill will establish a legislative framework for protecting access to cash. And alongside this, firms are already working to provide shared services, as she mentioned, like bank cards. But what I would encourage my honourable friend to do is to contact Link, which can undertake an independent assessment of a community's cash access needs and determine if shared facilities are appropriate.
David Hamilton.
Mr. Speaker, my constituent Sharon has an 11-year-old daughter who suffers from eating disorders and severe anorexia. She was forced to spend a year in hospital in Sheffield, 40 miles away, because there were no beds in Leeds for children with those eating disorders. This, Mr. Speaker, is completely unacceptable. So will the Prime Minister now commit to ensuring that NHS mental health provision for young people is dramatically improved so that no other family has to ever again endure similar trauma?
Minister.
Well, first of all, can I say to Sharon and her family, I'm sorry about what she's experienced. The honourable gentleman makes an excellent point. Mental health funding, as he knows, is increasing, so we ensure parity of service. He's also right to raise the issue of eating disorders. It's something that provision is currently expanding for. I think 2,000 more children were given the treatment and advice and support they needed last year, and there are plans to go further because it's an issue that needs tackling.
Jason McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Police Constable Nicola Hughes and PC Fiona Bone were savagely murdered in Manchester whilst on duty a decade ago. Nicola's dad, Bryn, is my constituent. He lives in Marsden. He was in Parliament again last week, continuing his campaign for emergency service workers and police officers who die whilst on duty to be awarded the Elizabeth Medal posthumously. Does my right honourable friend agree with me and Bryn that now is the time to commemorate and honour our brave police officers and emergency service workers who make the ultimate sacrifice by awarding posthumously the Elizabeth Medal?
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and I thank his constituent Bryn for his campaigning. Every life lost in the line of duty is a tragedy, and we remember the lives and service of PC's Nicola Hughes and Fiona Bone. We are determined, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that sacrifice that police officers and other public service officers make is recognised, and we are carefully considering the best and most appropriate ways to do this.
Kirsty Blackman.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Across these islands, people are suffering because of the woefully inadequate policies of this UK Tory government. They've crashed the economy, left millions in fear of the cold this winter, and are stoking division over striking workers rather than negotiating fair pay deals. Why is it that the only people that can rely on this Prime Minister are questionable PPE suppliers in the House of Lords, bankers, and former Prime Ministers getting taxpayer-funded handouts to defend their partying through COVID?
Mr. Speaker, the only people stoking division in our United Kingdom are the party opposite.
Question, Michael Fabricant.
Question 12, sir.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our priorities are growth, investing in public services and giving businesses the confidence they need to invest. I look forward to discussing this with the Mayor of the West Midlands.
Michael Fabricant.
Mr. Speaker, when my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, recently visited the National Memorial Arboretum, he was slightly late. But I don't blame him because he had to come by road. Now, my friend, the Mayor of the West Midlands, is supporting an extension of the cross-city line from Birmingham using an existing freight line to make it into a rail service to the National Memorial Arboretum and beyond. So, may I ask my right honourable friend, will he revisit the National Memorial Arboretum again, see the Armed Forces Memorial, and also come to Lichfield and see why we need a leisure centre?
I'd be delighted to come and visit the National Memorial Arboretum again, see my friend and the fantastic Mayor of the West Midlands, Andy Street, to discuss his plans to drive growth and opportunity in the region.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is now well over 3 years since the Conservatives promised the end no-fault evictions. Enfield has the highest rate of Section 21 evictions in London. 30 families in my constituency in the last month alone were made homeless as a result of Section 21. I have families sat in my office trying to keep warm as we try to find them emergency accommodation. Will the Prime Minister scrap this shameful legislation? If so, when?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady will know that we have announced plans to do that and we await parliamentary time. But it's not the only thing we are doing to protect renters, Mr. Speaker. We have passed legislation already to protect tenants from rip-off fees, and we've capped holding deposits because we want to make sure that renters do have the protections that they require and they have their decent homes to rent.
Holly Latham. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Small modular reactors are a hugely important part of our future energy mix. And this Conservative government realised that when it awarded Rolls-Royce nuclear section, based in my constituency, a grant of £210 for development. But there's still no clarity or plan for moving from development to deployment. Will the Prime Minister come with me to meet Rolls-Royce to discuss how to move things forward and ensure the UK benefits from this exciting opportunity?
Well, my honourable friend makes an excellent point. I'm delighted that government has awarded £210 million to Rolls-Royce SMR last year for research and development. This does have the potential to benefit the UK and support our energy security and climate goals. I look forward to getting updates and for working with my honourable friend to see this fantastic new technology come to life.
McCarthy.
When my constituent who has dementia was taken ill recently, it took 3 hours for an ambulance to arrive. He then spent 10 hours in the back of an ambulance outside A&E, queuing to get in. And the doctor said to him, "I'm so sorry, we're treating you out of the back of a truck." But as we've heard, the King's Fund has said that the government has presided over a decade of neglect of managed decline in the NHS. So isn't it the Prime Minister, not that doctor, who should be apologising?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that same King's Fund report also acknowledged that there was 40% more funding going into the NHS under this Conservative government. But we do need to make sure that that funding makes a difference. That's why this winter £500 million is being deployed to move people out of hospital beds into social care, to speed up those discharges specifically so that ambulances won't be queuing as much as they currently are, and that money is already making a difference on the ground.
Sakib Bhatti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The community in Kingshurst, which I represent, has suffered an unimaginable tragedy earlier this week when 4 children fell through the ice at Babsmill Lane. Sadly, 3 of the children did not survive, and one, a 6-year-old, is fighting for his life. They and their families are all in my thoughts and prayers. Will my right honourable friend pay tribute to the community in Kingshurst, which has come together and is supporting each other to get through this tragedy? And will he recognise the heroic efforts of the emergency services, including the police officer who used his bare hands to try and break through the ice and then jumped in the water with fire service personnel without the PPE, risking their own lives to save the young children?
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, and can I send my condolences to the family and friends of all of those who lost their lives. I also join him in paying tribute to our emergency services for, as he said, their incredibly selfless actions. This whole event has completely shocked the local community, and I know that my honourable friend will continue to do all he can to support his constituents at this difficult time.
Dame Angela Riedel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This year the Tory party has given us 5 education secretaries, 4 chancellors, 3 prime ministers, 2 leadership coups. And Mr. Speaker, the Partridges had to sell the pear tree to pay the gas. So, Mr. Speaker, isn't it the case that after a year of Tory chaos, incompetence and self-indulgence, the best Christmas present the Prime Minister could give to the British people is a general election?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, they're happier with that than before, Mr. Speaker. But all I'd say, when it comes to what the British people need this Christmas, Mr. Speaker, in order to ease the disruption on their lives, the best thing that the party opposite could do is tell their union bosses to call off these damaging strikes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After the Second World War, Winston Churchill sent British Conservative lawyers to help to draft the European Convention on Human Rights, and that's something that we can be proud of in this country. But in an age of mass migration, the ECHR is now limiting our ability to control our borders. So in light of the tragedy in the Channel this morning, does the Prime Minister agree he should do as Churchill did, draft a new framework for refugees and human rights, including legal routes, but one way or another, and if necessary alone, we must be prepared to leave the ECHR?
Mr. Speaker, as I told the House yesterday, our new legislation will deliver a system whereby a person who comes here illegally will have no right to stay and will be removed to their own country or a safe third country alternative. That is the system that the British people want to see. That's a system that we will deliver, and I look forward to hearing whether the party opposite will support it.
Sir Olney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As temperatures are plummeting and the cost of living crisis is deepening, ordinary families are facing a Dickensian nightmare across the country this Christmas. Mortgage bills are soaring, household repossessions are up, and nearly 500,000 tenants face a threat of eviction after falling behind on their rent. Too many people are worrying about where they and their children will wake up on Christmas morning. So will the Prime Minister agree to a temporary ban over the festive period on repossessions and evictions so that nobody has to live in fear of losing their home this Christmas?
Mr. Speaker, we provide a range of support to both homeowners and tenants who are in difficulty already. But the most important thing we are doing to financially support them through the winter is by providing almost £900 of support with their energy bills, on top of all the additional support for those who are most vulnerable, including pensioners. That demonstrates the actions of this government to help the country get through what we acknowledge is a challenging time.
Stephen Crowell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, at 9:30, you'll lead this House in a 1-minute silence to mark 80 years since the British government recognised that the Holocaust was taking place in Nazi-occupied Europe. As we come together to mark that moment, will the Prime Minister join me in praising the Holocaust Educational Trust and the extraordinary survivors who continue to do amazing work, ensuring that the next generation understand and learn the lessons from the past?
Mr. Speaker, 80 years ago, Parliament listened in stunned silence as the truth of the Holocaust was spoken in this House for the very first time. So it's absolutely right that you, Mr. Speaker, lead a moment of silence in which we will stand together to remember and reaffirm that truth. I join my honourable friend in paying tribute to the work of the Holocaust Educational Trust, and it could not be more fitting that Britain's Holocaust Memorial and Learning Centre should be built right next door to here to Parliament. We must never forget the Holocaust, and we must stamp out anti-Semitism and prejudice in all its forms, wherever we find it.
Chris Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Caerphilly County Borough Council recently announced a £3 million cost of living hardship fund to help those most in need in Islwyn and across our county borough. Does the Prime Minister think it's right that local authorities are forced to cover the costs of 12 years of economic mismanagement by this Tory government?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the honourable gentleman fails to acknowledge is that because of the actions of this UK government, not only are we supporting people in Wales and across the United Kingdom with help with their energy bills, we've also provided £1.2 billion of extra funding for the Welsh government to use to give to local authorities to support their constituents, and he would do well to acknowledge the benefits of the United Kingdom and the actions of the UK government.
We have a record 4,000 newly qualified doctors training to be GPs, which is really excellent. But we do have an issue with retention, which is made even worse in areas like mine, which have extremely high housing growth. As the son of a GP, what will the Prime Minister do to fix this?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know this is an issue that my honourable friend has talked and championed for a long time, and he's right to do so. We do have record numbers of GPs in training at the moment. We're also making sure that we support primary care appointments and primary care access, and I know that my honourable friend, the Health Secretary and Chancellor, are looking at how best we can increase retention, particularly with regard to pensions, and I look forward to getting his suggestions.
Final question, Wendy Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a written response from the DWP, it was confirmed to me that an unpaid carer earning more than £132 a week in their job is classed as being in gainful employment and as a result loses their carer's allowance of £69.70 a week. Now, caring doesn't stop. It never stops. So can the Prime Minister explain to me the rationale of this decision, given that we are trying to get economically inactive people back into work? And secondly, can he explain why it's his government's position that £132 a week is enough for people to live on?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I first start by paying tribute to those up and down the country who give up so much of their time to care for others. And I'm actually delighted that the government is supporting the honourable member's bill, which will give a week of highly flexible paid leave to unemployed carers. I think it's the right thing to do, and I'm grateful that the honourable lady is taking it forward. The carers allowance is a means-tested benefit. It's part of many other benefits that are available to support people, and as I've said, right now there is significant support in place for people through Christmas with their energy bills.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. Just let the House clear.